In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this wooden chest. I start by cutting the boards for the body of the chest to size. I've already routed a groove here, which will be used to recess the plywood bottom. The bottom of the chest is made from 1/2-inch plywood. The parts that are needed for the chest are two 1x6s, 18 inches long, with a routed groove for the bottom, and then two 1x6s, 9 3/4 inches long, with no groove. For the top, a 1x3, 19.5 inches long, and a 1x8, 19.5 inches long. The bottom is a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, 9 inches by 18 inches. Now, to assemble the chest, I will be using pocket holes. To make the pocket holes, I'm using this mini Kreg jig. Now, because the wood is 3/4 inch thick, I can just align the jig with the edge of the wood. I've already measured for the spacing on the pocket holes. If the wood was a different thickness, we would have to look at the instructions that came with the pocket hole jig as to how to space the jig. I have a drill bit here set up with a stop collar at the appropriate position for drilling pocket holes in 3/4 inch thick wood. Now I'm going to stain the boards using this vintage aqua blue colored stain. Before assembly, I varnish the pieces with polyurethane spray varnish. After applying 3 coats of varnish to the boards, I go over them with steel wool to get them nice and smooth. Here I have 2 of the pieces that make up the sides of the chest ready to be assembled. I use the corner clamps to hold the boards together in alignment while I drive the pocket hole screws. I am using 1 1/4 inch long pocket hole screws to connect the boards together. I am about to drill the pocket holes in the 1/2-inch thick bottom panel. I'm using the mini Kreg jig, but because the wood is only a 1/2 inch thick instead of 3/4 inch thick, the jig has to overhang the edge of the wood by 1/4 inch according to the manual. I also had to adjust the stop collar on the drill bit to accommodate the 1/2 inch thickness. I saved this step for this point in the project because sometimes the bottom panel needs a little adjusting to make it fit. Like here, I had to shave off about 1 or 2 millimeters with the plane to make it fit. After I get the pocket holes drilled, I'll restain and revarnish the areas. I use a Q-tip to put touch-up stain in the pocket holes. Now I turn to attaching the 1x3 board that the hinges will be attached to the top of the chest. I'm going to attach it with screws, so I'm going to need to make pilot holes. I've already measured and marked for the pilot holes, so I just need to drill them. I use 4 screws to anchor the board in place. I've already measured for the hinge installation. I am installing the hinges 2 inches in from each edge. I've marked where the pilot holes need to go for the screws, and will carefully drill the small pilot holes. I have to be careful because I don't want the holes to go all the way through the wood. I attach the hinges to the chest using the screws that were provided with them. Now I attach the latch using the screws provided with it. The last step is to attach the plywood bottom to the chest. I do that using pocket hole screws, only this time I'm using 1-inch screws instead of the 1 1/4 screws used elsewhere in the project. I'm using the 1-inch screws due to the 1/2 inch thickness of the plywood. Here is the completed chest.